Go ahead.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Seven Ray Institute, University of the Seven Rays Bridging Seminar towards our conference, 28th Conference, International Conference, Living as Radiant Temples of Life. Sing the Body Electric. We have tonight, if all goes well, there should be 7 of us who are going to make short little presentations. We will have Lawson Bracewell, Eva Simonson, Tuya Robbins, Helena Bach-Hughes, Lawson. Did I say Lawson already? No, Lawson Bracewell and Heidi Robbins, and I'm joining you myself. So here we go. Our webinar will last about 1 hour and 45 minutes, something of that nature, and we want to give you a little feeling of what is the substance of the coming conference. It's a 7th Ray conference, and this is the Ray, of course, which is going to be active with humanity for the next 2,000 years, a bit more, and in a larger sense, even for 25,000 years. So we're having a double age of Aquarius. At least the 7th Ray will certainly be active for 2,160 years and maybe about 2,500 years. So to begin with, what I'd like to do in my little portion is to go to this interesting section in Esoteric Psychology, Volume 1, where we have the names of the 7th Ray Lord. This is a great being who abides in Shambhala, and whose influence is cyclic. It's a very rapid cycle, although the Tibetan doesn't tell us what it is. And I'd like to go over the names briefly of this 7th Ray Lord. And I may not be able to, I trust everybody can see my screen on this. I hope so. These are some of the names of the 7th Ray Lord. And I'll just be very brief about it. And as I talk about this, try to tune in a little bit about the feeling of this energy, because this is going to be the energy which is going to pervade our conference. And DK said, tune in on the names of these Ray Lords, because it can reveal to you a deeper understanding of the rays and can also reveal to you your own rays. So for the next 2,000 years or so, this is going to be a very in the presence type of ray. The Unveiled Magician. This is the unencumbered magician, as not veiled. He's in his full powers. And this is, in fact, man as the soul. Man shall be revealed as a magician in this age, the 7th Ray age. The 7th Ray Lord lives in Shambhala, so to speak, maybe on the higher 2 subplanes, and even on the monadic and logoic plane, and will not be veiled by the 5 lower subplanes, the atmic plane. So what does this give us in terms of power in the New Age? It's so that the magical work can be accomplished within and without, within in full power or without inhibition. Okay, the worker in the magical art. Magic is as much an art as it is a science. And so if we can tune in on the Buddhic plane, we can understand the intuitive way that magic is to be applied. The power in the New Age, so that intuition may reveal, so that what intuition reveals of the divine plan may be skillfully wrought and expressed. The creator of form, along with the 5th Ray, really. Forms are found particularly in the dense physical body of the planetary logos, the lower 18 subplanes. And it's here that the forms which are conceived in the cosmic ethers, where life reigns, can be precipitated. And we're talking especially about the precipitation into the lower 7 systemic subplanes, our etheric physical subplane. What is its power in the New Age, so that the archetype may manifest through form. The next, the bestower of light from the second Lord. This is an amazing idea. Rays 2 and 7 go together, and if you look on the monadic plane and you start counting from the highest of the creative hierarchies, it's really the 7th plane down. And it's ruled by Jupiter, whose rays are the 2nd and the 7th. So in this case, the light is to manifest, and the 7th ray will bring it down into the forms which will radiate that light. So this is the 7th ray cooperating with the Christ principle. What is this power in the New Age? So that the 7th ray age may be an age of illumination. We come then to the idea of the manipulator of the wand, and of course this relates to the idea of initiation. The Hierophants manipulate the wand to bring the candidate for initiation into the proper space. What is the power in the New Age? So that initiation may proceed during the 7th ray age. It will be a great age of initiation, especially the 1st and 2nd initiations with the Christ officiating. I may not get through all of these, but you'll get the idea. You know, there are quite a few names of the 7th ray Lord. The Watcher in the East. So this is to ensure that the processes of the temple are properly performed. When form is fulfilled, then passage to the next dimension is allowed. But the form, all of our forms, must be in a certain condition for form to be fulfilled. So what is the power in the New Age? So that candidates in their form may be properly qualified to move into the next dimension. And the Watcher in the East, which is the place of light, ensures that they are properly qualified. The custodian of the 7th plan. Well, every plane on the cosmic physical plane has its own plan, and the 7th ray is particularly connected with the worker in the outer world. The outer world is our systemic etheric physical plane. What is the power in the New Age? So that the plan may manifest on Earth etherically and physically, and do so in the proper manner, because the 7th ray is the custodian of the exactitude of the plan. Now, here comes, I'm trusting our voice of God, who is our technical man, Brett Mitchell, to tell me if I run over. I'm going to try to stop exactly 10 minutes. The invoker of wrath. Well, it doesn't sound very pleasant, but if you think about the 7th ray's ability to invoke the subterranean powers and put them into control of the higher deities. And then there are the wrathful deities who protect the higher planes from the incursions of the unready. So we have to bring these two together, and there's great power here. We have to bring down these higher energies, and at first they may seem wrathful and very frightening, but eventually we will bring them under control, and we will learn how to express ourselves in line with them. What is the power in the New Age? So that the higher and the lower energies may be brought together in the proper manner to be expressed through form eventually. The keeper of the magical word. This is a very beautiful one, and a word is conferred at each initiation which has the effect of liberating the candidate into the next level of freedom. The word is carefully guarded, and security is always the function of the 7th ray energy. What is the power in the New Age? So that the word of liberation may be wisely and securely conferred upon the proper candidate at the proper time. The keeper of the magical word. Every hierophant whispers the magical word in the ear of the candidate. The temple guardian, again the idea that all work performed within the temple shall be done according to divine law and in line with the divine plan. And the temple will emerge as the great center of spiritual progress in the 7th ray age. The representative of God, well, the one who carries forward the will of God in an undistorted manner, faithfully and according to true form. The one who lifts to life is very interesting. It has to do with the raising up of the 7th center, which is the Kundalini center, so that all may be vivified in the higher chakric center. What is the power in the New Age? So that new forms of vitality may condition the age of Aquarius. The Lord of Death, this is a tough one. Let's just say that down here in the lower or 7th world, we are in the world of the dead. Consciousness dies down here. But it's all for a good reason, so that consciousness may learn to redeem the dead forms. So the Lord of Death keeps us submerged in the lower consciousness, so we learn to work in that way, so that life may be held in form until redemption is accomplished. The one who feeds the sacred fire, well, every one of the chakras is a sacred fire. It's a 7-fold system. So this is the process of sacralization. that the fire may proceed in a proper geometrical order. The whirling sphere, well, you tell me. This is all about Fohat, the wheel turning about itself in all directions in fulfillment. And remember that the seventh ray brings finally completion and fulfillment. The sword of the initiator, this is just like the wand of the initiator. It determines who may pass from one dimension to another. And every dimension is distinct and hermetically sealed. The power in the New Age, so that the initiatory energy may be powerfully and discriminatively directed. Here's an important one, the divine alchemical worker. The seventh ray is the great alchemist. The power in the New Age is so that the great and intended transformations may occur. So our list is this: transmutation, transformation, transfiguration, translation, transubstantiation, lifting all of lower matter until it vibrates to the archetype. And all of this is done in the divine alchemical process. The builder of the square, well, all form is the square, so that the holy city may be established on earth. The orienting force, learn the right geometry that allows you to face the east, so that all may be properly directed towards the Shekinah, the great white light that stands in the east. The fiery unifier, the synthesizer, all the chakras are brought together. The key to the mystery, so that qualified human beings may enter the higher dimensions sequentially, gradually, and according to law. There is a secret key for each one of the dimensions, and that is conferred by the seventh ray Lord. Two more, the expression of the will. Well, the seventh ray is the concrete aspect of the first ray, so that the will of God is manifested perfectly upon the earth, willfully, but with great skill and action. And finally, the revealer of beauty. And let me read this. The seventh ray is one of the practically artistic rays that reveals the beauty of God, and DK talks about this. Does it mean anything to you when I say that the ceremonial ritual of the daily life of Sanat Kumara, implemented by music and sound and carried on the waves of color which break upon the shores of the three worlds of human evolution, reveal in the clearest notes and tones and shades the deepest secret of his purpose? It scarcely makes sense to you and is dismissed as a piece of symbolic writing used by me in order to convey the unconveyable. Yet I am not here speaking in symbols, but am making an exact statement of fact. As beauty in any of its greater forms breaks upon the human consciousness, a dim sense is thereby conveyed of the ritual of the daily life of Sanat Kumara. More I cannot say. So that is the seventh purpose of deity. Those are the names of the Ray Lords, and within those energies our conference will take place. Thank you, and we can switch to Lawson.
Hello.
You are there.
Go ahead. Yes, Lawson. I am there, and I am ready to show a screen and bring up the chart that we're going to look at. And I think I've succeeded, so yes. Hello, everyone. It's delightful to be speaking to almost 46, I think it's 46 people who are on this webinar. And I'm talking about the very powerful solar systemic energy pattern that is going to be present at the time of our conference. This energy pattern is something which has been essentially in formation since the end of December. There are 4 planets primarily that are a part of the pattern. They are Uranus in Aries, Pluto in Capricorn, Mars in Libra, and Jupiter in Cancer. These planets are all in the process of going retrograde and direct. So since the end of December, Mars in particular has gone out of the pattern and then come back into the pattern. But we can say that the pattern has been present energetically since the end of December, and we will have remnants of this pattern's energy until May. It's going to be exact on the 22nd of April, which is not that long after our conference. So the energies will be building, and certainly the dynamic of these energies will be present throughout the conference. The key ingredient of this Grand Cross, this cardinal Grand Cross, is a square between Uranus and Pluto. This square marks the first great crisis in their dance, which began as an exact conjunction in 1965. During that time, we had the introduction of a revolutionary concept for humanity to assimilate, and that's the concept of holism. That concept is slowly beginning to embrace our thinking in terms of our economics, our education, our politics, our religion. We are increasingly thinking of one humanity and the interdependence of all components of that whole. Now we are in a square, which is the first major crisis since the conjunction in 1965. The square appeared for the first time in the world chart in November of 2008, and worldwide we experienced the great crisis within the banking industry, within Wall Street, and all of the economic adjustments which we are still very much within. We have seen as this square has maintained itself over the period of time since then, many uprisings of individual nations and groups for freedom. So the primary energy of this square is change. This square is in cardinal signs, and the cardinal cross of Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, which is what we're talking about in this Grand Cross, all of the signs, barring Libra, have the seventh ray pouring through them. And Libra has Uranus, a conduit of the seventh ray, as its sole ruler. So the pattern is very much in the theme of this conference. The theme being that the will of God, the ideas behind manifestation, the great patterns become beautifully manifested within our physical plane existence. The pattern is one of great tension. When it's tied together in a grand cross like this, we have 4 squares and 2 oppositions. On a personality level, this is what we individually and collectively are experiencing. A great sense of impending change, and everything within the form resists that change. The stress is acted out in all relationships because of the oppositions, but there also is the internal impetus to change. It's a very volatile pattern because Mars is involved. And yet the door of opportunity stands wide open for making loving, conscious, heartfelt initiatives manifest. Jupiter in Cancer. These 4 primary patterns, aside from the square of Uranus or 5 rather, aside from the square of Uranus and Pluto, bring in the following. Mars opposing Uranus. We have the potential to generate physical plane forms that advance the devotion to the emerging plan for the new civilization. Mars squares Pluto. The will aligns with the lower self, and it's possible for a reorientation of all life experiences. Mars squares Jupiter. The spiritual warrior emerges within the group and within individuals, promoting courage and idealism to promote the presence of love in the world. Jupiter opposes Pluto. The will serves to birth, transform, and expand spiritual concepts in people's minds and hearts. Jupiter squares Uranus. There is a distribution and sharing of the energies of this new and dawning age that we stand on the brink of. Therefore, although we can tune in, whether we tune into the web, the World Wide Web, and read the various websites talking about the Grand Cross, or we tune into our own emotional bodies and we can be filled with fear, we need to recognize that that is happening and turn it into a will to take action. This pattern is the perfect pattern for us, members of the new group of world servers, to energize our projects, to take visions and ground them in programs and activities, to renew our groups, to dedicate ourselves to being practical workers in the world, practically implementing this new world order which we sense as we sense the approach of the Christ, as we sense the externalization of the hierarchy. It's particularly potent, this pattern, at the time of our conference, because in the period of time that the square is present exactly, which is from June of last year until April of 2015, there are 7 exact squares. We are going to have, on the 22nd of April, the 5th of these 6, or rather 7 squares. 5 is a wonderful number. It is a perfect fit with 7 because 5 is the magical work of the soul as the magician, using the power of thought to direct energy. This is our work as conscious disciples. So I think this is a perfect setup as we come together in the conference to recognize ourselves as the enlightened group that we are, and strengthen the hands of all of those around the world who are a part of the larger group. I want to end by reading. These are all, if we round them up, all of the points in this Grand Cross are at 14 degrees of their sign. And I want to just read you the Sabian symbols for these 4, because I think these symbols, when pondered upon, are potent points for revelation of more specific meaning. So we'll begin with Uranus in Aries, a serpent coiling near a man and a woman. The key word is revelation. This symbol suggests the potential for exceptional self-discipline in the continual acquisition of real understanding. Then we have Pluto at 14 degrees of Capricorn. An ancient bas-relief carved in granite is the symbol. The key word is foundation. There's a gift for bringing all things into a pattern of convenience and thereupon precipitating an inevitability of desired results. Then Jupiter in Cancer. A very old man facing a vast dark space to the northeast. The key word is sanction. Here there is the potential for highly effective enlistment of deeper and hidden elements of life for some particular end. And finally, we have Mars in Libra. The symbol is a noon siesta. The key word is recuperation. This is an image concerning the incisiveness of thought or action and effective directness of action. I think we often think of Libra as a sign of equivocation, and Mars in that sign as in its weakness. But in fact, what this symbol is pointing out is that this is the poised warrior, ready to act with great effectiveness and efficiency. This is the point, and this is our potential. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed this, and I'm now ready to pass this on to my co-board member. I don't remember who that person is.
Eva.
Eva.
There you go.
Thank you. As Michael mentioned earlier, the theme of our conference in April is Living as Radiant Temples of Life, Sing the Body Electric. And this got me to thinking about the relationship between the two great commandments given to us by Jesus of Nazareth 2,000 years ago and the etheric body, which is, of course, a technical name for the body electric. Understanding and applying both concepts, I think, are foundational to a functioning world. Therefore, it seems to me that they must be related. So let's consider first the etheric body. In Treatise on Cosmic Fire, page 98, we learn that the etheric body is really a network of fine channels. And we see a representation of the channels in this artistic rendering of someone meditating. Page 111 of the same volume, Treatise on Cosmic Fire, says that when we are discussing the etheric body, or the etheric, to remember that we are dealing with physical matter. And then on page 105 in White Magic, we're informed of the purpose for the network of channels. It is through the etheric body that all energies flow, whether emanating from the soul or from the sun or from a planet. Interestingly, astronomers are coming to see that energies may be flowing between galaxies. page 76 of White Magic, the etheric body is the next aspect of world substance to be studied by scientists and investigators, and it seems to be happening, as evidenced by this computer simulation of what astronomers are looking at through their powerful telescopes. All energies flow through the etheric body. This is a good statement to introduce Jesus' two great commandments. They are about love. Love is an energy. "2,000 years ago, Jesus took all the patriarchal laws, including the 10 Commandments that came before his time, and he distilled them into two straightforward sentences. Love the Lord your God with your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole mind, and your whole strength. Love your neighbor as you love yourself." And he emphasized how important this is by going on to say that all other commandments come from these two. Every law, every rule, every mandate telling us how to behave flow from love God and love your neighbor. And I think this is so because Jesus was doing more than telling us how to behave. He was telling us the facts of life. Psychologically, it's true, is it not, that what we choose as our God, whether that be money or comfort or an ideal or a person, that is what we give our attention to. And to consider the second commandment, how logical is it to even consider that we can love others better than we love ourselves? So, what, you may be asking, does this have to do with the etheric body? I believe these two basic truths that Jesus gave us about how human beings express love can enhance our understanding and ability to work with the etheric body. We know love is an energy, and we know that here on the physical plane where we live, energy travels along the channels of the etheric body. So Jesus' two statements, commandments, laws, whatever you want to call them, that the quality of love energy which we give to the etheric channels in, around, and through us, the quality of that energy is very much up to us. We choose our gods. We choose how to love ourselves and others. The choices we make are the song we give to our portion of the etheric body. We sing the body electric. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much, Michael and Lawson and Eva. So we are trying to bring forth some of the ideas for the conference and this fantastic seventh ray, which is going to build the temple on our earth. So let us think about the word, how the word is related to the seventh ray. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. We think about our worlds as they are the worlds of darkness, and to that idea is related the idea of the little Devic lives and elemental lives, which are the conduits for the seventh ray, and also the life aspect how the seventh ray and the first ray are related. The seventh ray, which is really manifesting and bringing the form forth, and then the life which needs that form as well. So if you didn't see in the beginning, I'm talking something about the crop circles in relationship to that we have those phenomena. And if you remember how Lawson was telling about these 7 times amazing moments that these crosses, which are forming the tool for the soul to bring forth a new form, which really will hit the earth, hit the physical plane. That is how everything what is above is going to be built. So our task here is to build something, but what is going on at the same time around us in phenomenal world? So that's why I was thinking to just make us to see. We could talk thousands of different things, but to see what is happening at this time, and also that this phenomenon of the crop circles, it looks like that they have been going on also during the centuries. But the most important form when thinking about the circles themselves is actually the circle, which looking the mandala is called the circle, or it is also the universe. So in that geometrical form there is some hidden secrets about God. And also we can think about how the circle can be looked as a dot as well, which is related to the first ray, but then as well to this building, this sacred circle of workers within, or like within the square. We can see here the square, and within we can see the circle. Sorry that my arrow is jumping because I don't have a mouse. And then here is the square again, and then we have the circle. So these two things are interrelated all the time. So we can think about the second ray and the seventh ray, how they are behind of building something. So we will run through a lot of at the moment the pictures, just for us to have some ideas. So anyway, the bindu, the center, is always the most important, whatever form will be sent forth. The Vishnu on the second plane is singing the form into existence, and in that the sound and the form are again interrelated. Here we see how the drop, which is hitting the liquid, is creating these circles within circles. We have in the crop circles always the center, and that is amazing thing. There are debates, are these crop circles built by man, or is there really some other intelligence behind it, or some other thing? It is still in public talked about that the crop circles are mysteries. But anyway, we always see in those which looks real, the center, the bindu. And here you see these layers, how the crops are fallen down. Here we have different kinds of centers. There can be this kind of like empty place, and it's very interesting to study these centers as well, but we are not only considering them. Here we see very big center, but anyway there is always bindu inside these amazing images. Here we see also these layers, which if you look them, they, first of all it is said that those who have been seeing those crop circles, that how quickly they came. They have come always in like one cannot even say, but in few minutes, huge areas that the crop has fallen down. And if you look these patterns, I didn't find a better image yet, but it's like knitting the threads. The other part of the crops are going to the left and then to the right, to the left, to the right, like basket knitting. Very interesting. And here we have also that here is the bindu, here is the layers going to the right, then to the left and to the right. Again, very hard to do by human. It would take longer time than those that they seem to appear. Then there are also different shapes and really sharp lines, as we can see here too, which are difficult to do when you look the line how sharp it can be. But then one of the interesting things are that when you look the crop, they are bended. They are not cut. If you put something heavy on the crop, it would cut and would come very square-like. But these are bending, and that is one of the debates what those who have been studying the crop circles say, that it is not done by human way. And here we see also that interesting, this kind of whirls happen to the crop, and the knots they are not cut, but they are like stretched. It is also told that there are appearing this kind of light balls when these crop circles are appearing, and they hear a humming sound, those who have been nearby. So let us think about the sound itself related to the army of the voice. The army of the voice, the devas in the serried ranks, work ceaselessly. Let the disciple apply himself to a consideration of their methods. Let him learn the rules by which the army works within the veils of Maya. And we know that about the Maya, it is related to those etheric planes that we are interested in our coming conference. Those patterns which are created by sound, we could study them a lot by themselves as well, but here we have some images when the different frequencies of sound have been directed in the drops of oil, and we see how interesting patterns they are creating, as we see in the crop circles as well. And this is how the Om was directed to the oil drop, and it created like that. And here too. So this relates us to think about the water crystals, which are related by the sound. And Dr. Emoto, who has been proven how thought, music, word prayer, and different energy patterns make water either into beautiful form or chaotic form. And here we see one of these chaotic forms, how it is that it is not creating any geometrical form. And here the beautiful crystals which are coming by the beautiful sounds. So these most common forms that we see in crop circles are spirals, and we see the spiral, and we could talk about the spiral, how it is related to the soul and soul evolution, but now we're just having some ideas, squares, triangles, orbits, different orbits, and it looks like that there are like the orbits of the planets, and that would be interesting to study and talk about them, but we don't have now time. Then geometrical figures, insects, which is very interesting and could be also discussed because we have here different those circles as well, and how they are formed with the circles, but then you see these insects or other images and beautiful symbols. Moons, very interesting, and the star. And stars are very common and more and more complicated. And that was also discovered that these images, like here we have very interesting image and complicated thing, that the more complicated things were appearing later. It is like the devas would have been learning to work with whomever, whatever intelligence, and the more complicated things came, so that 2001 appeared this huge thing, and nowadays there are really several hundreds meters. This is 240 meters long, 780 feet long. And we could think about and study this as well. But look at that. Already 1678 was a pamphlet which was showing about their understanding about like something about these crop circles. The devil would have been working and doing that. So in that sense, in folklore, there are all kinds of stories about the fairies' rings, and they are telling about balls of light and moving devil or dancing wolves or fairies. So have these crop circles just appeared now? When we think about these Celtic patterns, look at them, how they have something in relationship with the crop circles and their patterns. And these crop circles always appear in this or very near the sacred places, not always, but the majority of them. And the most of them, 90%, is appearing in England. They are appearing mostly in wheat and barley. And when we think about the England, we could look these maps and see where they have been found all over England. And so we can think about these esoteric facts about Great Britain, because it has the second ray soul. It has the first ray in personality, and London is also considered that it could be the first ray center, world center. And London would have in the seventh ray in its personality level. So it is very interesting to think about that, and because it is the world center, is that the reason why the crop circles are appearing, even though we see that in Russia, Canada, Egypt, and everywhere in the earth, in 10,000 reports have been found. But is it so that the great God is now talking through these crops, because we use so much wheat, this geometrical thing, in order to build the body electric within us when we eat this kind of electrical and geometrical wheat and whatever food made from these near these sacred places. So thank you so much, and my beloved sister Halina is going on.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much, Tuija, for that beautiful presentation, and to everyone. In terms of living the teachings and the radiant life, especially in the next 12 years from now until 2025, every one of us has the opportunity to increase our radiance. Last time I did a mini presentation on the living presence, the presence at various levels, and today I want to share with you a story that is a living encounter with the presence through entering a field of love. And this story will reveal to us the many ways the presence and its healing powers can enter our lives. So as you listen to the story, please listen for those conditions that made it possible. And because when we recognize these truths and these conditions, we open to the possibility of presencing the presence within our own lives. So with these thoughts in mind, let us listen to the story, and then I will say a few concluding thoughts. In 1994, my husband and I spent an amazing week in Guatemala with our daughter Tara, a medical student who was working in Guatemala City that summer in a hospital for the poor. Friends of hers recommended a visit to a village virtually unknown to tourists at the time, Chichicastenango. We rented an ancient Jeep for the drive up a wildly winding mountain road that was continually punctuated by giant potholes and deep ruts. Today, it is a beautifully paved road, but on that day, I tried to avert my eyes from 1,000-foot drops at every turn as we crashed into and out of a dozen ruts, and eventually arrived at the top. We were totally unprepared for the breathtaking beauty all around us. On one side, an ocean of Mayans dressed in bright blue and red were gathered for market day. On the other side, an alluring path led us to what appeared to be a tiny white church built on top of an ancient pyramid. At the top of the stairs, a very old Mayan brujo healer with a saintly face and stooped shoulders was gently swinging incense over a crippled woman, softly chanting prayers in his native Quiché. After a few minutes, the woman left, and the brujo, with an air of infinite peace and humility, opened the small doors of the church and humbly stationed himself at the back. People who looked very poor and very ill waited in a long line for him. Through the open doors, I saw in the semi-darkness a long row of burning white candles running the length of the center aisle floor, which was thickly covered with fresh flower petals. The beauty was beyond anything I had ever seen. My daughter and I tiptoed into the church and sat down on a side bench to be as unobtrusive as possible. I immediately felt myself saturated in love. The whole room was full of love. The air was rich and dense and luminous. I noticed beside me, at the end of our bench, a statue of Mary. Unusually compelling in a tasteful combination of Mayan and Christian dress. It had a strong spiritual presence, as works of art portraying Mary often do. And I recited the Hail Mary. Everything seemed to slow down and stop. I could feel myself sinking deeper and deeper into beauty, into holiness. Before long, I lost track of time and even of myself. My daughter nudged me, pointing to her watch. A half hour had gone by, and we had to check into the hotel. Reluctantly, I stood up to leave. Many years of prayer and meditations had given me wondrous experiences, spiritual and mystical, but the depths of love in this sacred place surpassed everything. Still enveloped in love, I listened to the Mayans' tender chanting for the poorest of the poor, then looked back at Mary, thinking about the power that she and he exuded. 2 days later, we drove down the mountain early for an appointment with a surgeon who would tell me the fate of a finger on my right hand. It had been nearly severed a few days earlier when a huge wrought iron door had slammed on it, and it was not healing. The skin had turned black, the graft was not taking, and the doctor was not optimistic. Suddenly, I realized I had missed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to ask a powerful, obviously revered Mayan brujo to pray for me. I shook my head, wondering how could I have been in the holiest situation of my life and not ask for help when it was such an obvious thing to do. Apparently, I was so lost in the love and beauty that it was impossible to think of myself. A few hours later, the surgeon unbandaged my hand and exclaimed, "How did you do it?" I looked down and saw that the finger looked alive again. The wound was healed. "Oh, I have a great surgeon," I replied, laughing, too shocked and nervous to say anything meaningful. He responded with a tone of surprising gravity. I did not do that. I don't have that kind of power. Today, as I write these words, I look down at the fine scar encircling my fingertip and remember the riches of love emanating from an ancient Mayan healer so poor that he burned his sacred incense in a rusty tin can. He was the most humble person I have ever been blessed to encounter, and my scar, like a little halo that I imagined shining over his head, will always symbolize for me the mysterious love of God at work in humankind, the great mystery of Christ in us. It keeps me aware of the death and rebirth cycle that accumulates over the course of a lifetime, and of the ultimate truth of Christian resurrection faith. Thinking about that day in Chichicastenango, I can feel again the inexplicable spiritual aspect and impact of the statue of Mary, the strong feminine presence and loveliness it portrayed. I have often visited the cloisters in New York City to enjoy medieval statues of Mary that I love, but this one was different. She seemed to step out of it and come alive. Although I did not have a particular devotion to her at that time, something had moved me to recite the Hail Mary. It was not a conscious prayer for my injury to heal, yet there was undeniably a relationship between the powerful impression she had on me, the beauty of the Mayan healer, the love he generated in a little church, and I will add, the love field that was generated by the group that was present, and the renewed flash on my hand. Apparently the beauty of spiritual presence had opened my heart, and life-giving grace had flowed in. So, to conclude with a story, in a treatise on white magic, DK says that the great need at this time is to be experts in the field, in the life of the soul, to be experts in the life of the soul. And the presence is known by many names and ways. Sometimes we call it the soul. It is the solar angel. It is the monad or spirit on a higher turn of the spiral. It is the anima mundi as the soul of the world. And it is the Holy Spirit in terms of the Holy Trinity. The human soul, the solar angel, and the presence itself are all aspects of the soul. In our culture, the soul presence is increasingly rising and is making itself known through the divine feminine in all of us, in all of humanity. And the world is being remade on the basis of solar fire or love, and no longer through fire by friction or the personality fire where conflict and disharmony exist. It is the soul in all of us, the presence in all of us, the love aspect of divinity that nurtures the heart and all of life to come into expression in all of its fullness, from the highest levels of reality to the lowest, informing the soul of the world, the anima mundi. So let us remember that love is the greatest power on earth that informs and emanates throughout our universe. And therefore, let us be its radiant cells, its vehicles of expression on earth, thereby doing our part. And now I pass the baton to my beloved partner, companion Sheldon Reese.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. This has been a marvelous bath, you might say, in these energies which we are all around us, ever present, and which we are invoking for this conference. I want to continue, I think, if I can be heard, on this, the more personal way of looking at our opportunity here to live as radiant temples of light. And on the screen, and part of this has to do with noticing when radiance and other aspects of life particularly solar life. By solar life, I'm talking about aspects of love, in its many dimensions, but also aspects of life itself. What I want to do is relate us to some of the experiences I think we have, some of which pass by so quickly we don't even notice, which relate to the calling forth of our soul nature. That's the primary thing. And my thesis is that as we notice these experiences and we ponder on them, as DK would say, as we savor them, as we allow them, contemplate them, something happens to us within ourselves. Now, one of the great things that we have going for us today is studies in neuroscience, which shows at least a physical reflection of what happens when we think along certain lines, when certain emotions are released, and we bathe ourselves in what might be called the positive chemistry, positive hormones, which I won't even list at this point in time. The reason for the picture, though, is to say that so much of our study, for me anyway, can be lost in forget the words and some of the meanings, lost in concepts. And I think the teaching has to be soaked, you might say, in, I'm going to say, in aspects of solar fire, and some aspect of love, which is reached through contemplation, or in this case, I saw this picture, and you can tell what it is. This is a soldier who saw his still with him, even though he's passed on. That field of devotion or love, I think, does something to how we take in our what we read and what we think about, and that's the reason for this picture. Just a couple of words about what time it is, as far as I'm concerned. Michael and Lawson, I think, spoke to it beautifully, and in terms of this time of Aquarius, this last 12 years that we live on the way to 2025, we're the forerunner, for me anyway, are pivotal for all of us in humanity, but also I think on a personal level. I feel like Aquarius is so much present right now, and I'll say a bit more about how I think we can work with these Aquarian energies in a moment. On a personal level, 2 years ago, my daughter gives me a call about this time and says, "Dad, you know your birthday is coming up in 2 months. You're going to be 70. I said, "No, you got to be kidding. It's not true." She said, "Dad, you know, look at your, whatever it is, birth certificate." So yes, it is true. Turns out that time is passing by, and I end the third Shambhala cycle, you might say, of 24 years, begin a new one here in a couple of months. And so that for me also adds an impetus for moving rapidly forward. So I want to talk a little bit more now about so what do I think I know these days? And what's come home very clearly to me is some of the words we read in DK about the laws of the universe, whether it be cosmic fire kinds of things, whether it be even some of the things that Tui was showing in the crop circles. These pictures, these words now have somehow entered me in a way that says this is the truth. The universe is wired. So we are, as God or the great architect created us. It's a wiring that works all the way down through into the neural structures of our brain. So we are just set as DK would tell us, you know, in one of those great writings, he talks about the fact that about what our destiny is. He says, in effect, that the divine Son of God, sons of God, never know who they are. And initiate is the result of the evolutionary process. The cause is not the result of the evolutionary process, but is the cause of it. And by means of it, he or she perfects his vehicles of expression until she becomes initiate in the three worlds of consciousness and the three worlds of identification. What that says very simply, to me, it's an idea, but it says that we are wired as great souls. We are wired as monads. We are wired into the way the universe is built. The issue is, do we recognize this? So I think that's what I am. Now, who I am is my progressive realization of that in fact. So we've been blessed by some recent studying with Lawson a couple times, esoteric psychology, and now in Treatise of White Magic. And I was reading something recently in the beginning of White Magic, where he talks about the intuition is in reality only the appreciation by the mind of some factor in creation, some law of manifestation, some aspect of truth known by the soul. I read that and I thought, oh my God, I am that soul. It's not like I'm saying to myself, I am the soul, and repeating this and as a mantra. It's like, wait a minute, that is who I am. Now, there's other parts of me expressing outwards that are a lot less than that, that's for sure. But I got that. It was just a powerful, powerful recognition of a realization of who I essentially am. If I stand on that and kind of not only think from there, but then look at experiences that are going on, doors open up into the beauty Michael was talking about. When you say here, the worker in the magical art, the revealer of beauty, these have always been, how would I say, facts in my life, but the significance of these facts are what's coming home to me. And I must say, inside of me, I come alive. I really do come alive. Now, the unfortunate thing is this body is getting, I hate to say it, it's getting older. This is not much fun. I mean, but I still feel inside of me like he's an Aries sun, okay, fine, but I mean, like a great deal of life and energy. It just has a little trouble stumbling and fumbling about, forgetting some things and that kind of stuff. So that's just what it is. But my point is that the realization of who I am, this is so crucial. And I think we get there. I think we get to this place by a couple of different paths. How I know? I think I know because I've always registered some aspects of truth, and now they're just coming through to me like writ large with energy that says this indeed is true, this I know. So I'd like to say just a couple of words about how do we live this teaching, therefore. Take it beyond the reading of the books, conceptualizing, this is all very important. How does it become much more factual in our life? And I want to just say that Aquarius, we're in right now, just reading that light, shines on earth across the sea. Shines on earth, it's always on this earth, across the sea. This is the light which, how's it go? This is a light which basically heals, purifies, so that the dark is gone. And for me, what that says is that there's darkness in our understandings of things because of the vehicles that we have. Because everything is all here, always present right now. It's just I don't always see it, don't always feel it. So the issue here is with Aquarius, we have the power to do something with these dark areas or shaded areas, which are not so clear to us. So I just want to make something simple. I'm not an astrologer, as you can tell, but when you think about these 3 decades of Aquarius, which are going to be with us all the time, Saturn, giving us discipleship, the kind of discipleship and opportunity. So do we take every experience that we have, especially the ones which raise difficult thoughts, unhappy thoughts, that trigger certain kinds of emotional states which are not in keeping with the joy or even the occasional bliss that we can feel? Do we look at those kind of things and see, hey, this is the use of karma? We also wrote a book about this. Karma is our friend. Life happens for us, not just to us, right? So we take this and we do something with it. Mercury comes in, 2nd decade, right on the light, with the light of the soul. What Mercury does is relate things together so we can see the larger picture. It's the light of the soul. And where that takes us finally is just Venus enters the union of heart and mind, is we see in that light the connectivity, the love, the relationship, the brotherhood, sisterhood that we are. Those ideas and thoughts are just kind of wired into the way things are today. Now there are many examples, and many counterexamples in the news, yes, I get that, but there are many examples of this. So what I want to say finally is that when we have any experience that's, he's going to read some poetry. It could be poetry, it could be a picture, it could be an image. I love those things that Tootie was showing us. if we soak on those things, something happens inside of us. If we realize what is going on here, there are neural connections that are being made, positive emotions being elicited, the higher emotions, that myelinizes those things, they get stronger. It opens up areas of the brain where new neurons can be born. And I think that is the way we move from light to light, from love to greater love. I could say much more, but I think I've done it. All right, well, folks, thank you very much, and I've enjoyed talking with you. I'm passing this thing on to Heidi now.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, dear friends. Thank you so much for that, Sheldon. And, you know, certainly I think Sheldon just very much presenced us in our hearts. But as I wrap our seminar up here, our webinar up, perhaps we can just take a moment to actually take a breath over our hearts and from the center of our hearts and feel the absolute existence of the plane of the heart which connects us all, and that we get to bathe in and feel our deep, true oneness. So what I'd like to do is just offer a few poems. And you know, we started this whole webinar with this image that Michael offered about the daily life of Sanat Kumara and beauty breaking upon human consciousness and sound and color in waves pouring over us. And I am a person that is deeply touched by sound and color and the orchestration of words. And I think that some of the poems that I've chosen for you just capture and encapsulate some of what we're discussing here. So without further ado, let me just begin with a very short poem by David Whyte called Loaves and Fishes. This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information. Forget the news and the radio and the blurred screen. This is the time of loaves and fishes. People are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000. So I think it's just important to feel what your one good word is. And certainly in my life, one of my good words is poetry. And what are the words, as Sheldon was asking us, what are the experiences, what are the words that touch us beyond measure and actually affect a change? So we're not just assimilating information. What is the word that reveals love? What is the word that evokes the will? What is the word that illumines the mind and moves us to action? So people are hungry. We know this, yes? And one good word is bread for 1,000. And so Lawson did a beautiful job of presenting us with the fact that here we are in the center of this grand cross. And I have been witnessing many astrological clients who are, you know, in extraordinary crisis. And I myself feel the great sorrows and fears and strains of this time and the desire to break free in a whole new way. And so we can't deny that we're under extraordinary pressure. But what I try to do for myself when I write my own poetry is to use that particular tool to return me to the molten love of the core of who I am. So this poem is called Freedom Carvers, and I want you to all feel into how you are a freedom carver. And as you'll see at the beginning, I often find it important to really name the darkness before I can find my way to the voice, to the word of the soul, and the truth of the soul, and as Helena said, the experts in the life of the soul, you know. So this is called Freedom Carvers. Heart heavy, cloak of futility mine. I curl up, give up, offer up an endless sigh. Brimming tears, nowhere to go, driving anyway, a glimpse in the rear-view mirror, all I see is lost time. Today foolish for having a dream, done, wrung out, full up to my eyes in the repetition of a responsible life. Carrying some old pain yet to put down, the ancient familiar whispers in my ear. This is who you are, serious girl. This is who you are, refusing light's kiss. This is who you are, costumed, festooned, wanting to be something you're not. Ah, yes, this place, its intractable grip. And still, I know this. I'm a freedom carver. Words are my sharpened edge. Reaching for my pen is like reaching for the moon this far from grace. But I summon every last shred of hope to fly in the face of this sorrow. Michelangelo set loose the soul in stone, cutting away what imprisoned life. I will write again and again through the hardened crust of self-negated to the molten lava love core, with a headlamp and an inky pickaxe, and the certainty, yes, tasted, that everything that isn't love is just waiting to become it, melting into the center of itself. I will carve out what isn't mine, filling pages with black ink, mouthing the words that require the breath, that move the body somewhere new, and burn away the dross as I stand as love at the center of the page, watching well-worn sorrow eaten by this fiery dance. And so I think this is our opportunity during this square, during this tremendous square, between Uranus and Pluto for sure, but also this grand cross and this idea that we can actually, as Lawson pointed out, bring in the seventh ray in such strong measure and reinvent and create a new plan for ourselves. It's now or never. It's this moment of crisis, of spiritual crisis. And we can either give in to the pool of tears, which is important to do at times, I am all for that, but also to recognize the tools that we each have to energize our projects and to dedicate ourselves to using our gifts. Now, one of the things that I have learned very recently and continue to learn is that, guess what? There's no way we can do that if we ignore the temples of our bodies, if we ignore these radiant temples of life. And I am one that often pushes through and ignores just that. And during the Seventh Ray Conference for sure, and during this time of the Seventh Ray, we need to learn to acknowledge the body as the temple, and as Eva spoke, to allow this love to pour through the etheric. And the only way it's going to do that is if we are paying attention to the health at all levels. So this poem, I actually went to an acupuncturist, my dear acupuncturist, recently when I was feeling quite ill. And he said to me later, he wrote me an email, and he said, "Oh, your body is magnificent." And I said, "Oh my gosh, my body is magnificent," and it was a word that I needed to hear about this beautiful body. So I wrote this poem called This Magnificent Body. My body says, "Hold up there," and pulses a pain in my abdomen where something has grown hard, closed in on itself, not wanting to budge. I wouldn't listen to the rhythmic pain until she put on the emergency brake, stopped the train, said, "Put me in bed now and rest. You have no choice, no voice in this, my friend. We've traveled too far without fuel, and we're stopping on these tracks in the middle of nowhere, so don't try to run." Only then, in that quiet, do I feel something silenced long ago, wanting to be heard. And first the fear, the floods and fathoms of fear that this pain has too long been neglected, and just like my grandmother, I dead too young. But then the listening, and orange flowers that keep blooming from my belly as I breathe, like a gift reminding me of something that once was and still is, and the unfurling of something long held tight, the unknitting of my brow, my body in my bed, giving it all away to the turquoise of the earth while I rest in awe, studying renewal. When did I stop listening? This magnificent body, my friend says, but I'm sick, I say. And he says, this magnificent body, when did you leave it behind? When did I? When did I run away to climb the mountain alone, with effort, strain, a full brain as my only companions? But now, communion, reunion with this magnificent body, stunning transportation, vehicle to deliver and receive every moment's bliss, all mine for a precious time. So I think I'll let that be the final word, that we all as students of this ageless wisdom not forget during this time of the seventh ray that it is our heart that is pulsing in our beautiful body that will connect us and reveal the fastest, truest path to our evolution. And it's the time to love. It's the time to love our magnificent bodies and the time to love one another. So I can't wait to see many of you at the conference, and I will hand this back to my father, Michael, and we will wrap it up.
Thank you, Heidi. Beautiful poetry. Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Tuya. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Lawson. Thank you, Brett. And I'm here too. We are so looking forward to you joining us at our 28th Annual International Conference in Mesa, Arizona. This time somehow we managed to put together an almost 2-week conference. We begin on April 1st with our ceremonial workshop led by Tuya. I suppose it's about 3 days. We go on with the Moria Federation faculty meeting. We continue with our esoteric astrology seminar with, I suppose, maybe even 10 esoteric astrologers to work on the 7th ray with you. And then we have our advancing 7-ray seminar in which we take up the theme of integration along the lines of all the 7 rays. By that time, it's almost time for us to begin our conference proper, which starts on Tuesday night this year, and will give us pretty much the full 5 days until the 13th of April, Sunday, when we end with the ceremony which Tuya leads. It will be our closing ceremony, followed by our lunch on the patio. So, look, everybody, we really do hope you can come to Mesa in person. It's always a climax somehow when we reach the 7th ray. It's a moment of really a real embodiment, and I suppose that number 7 is so connected with our 7-Ray Institute and the University of the 7 Rays. We hope you can be there with us in person and for as much of that time or all of that time as may be possible for you. And if it should not be possible and you find yourselves in the wild mountains of some country or whatever, just tune in on the internet, and Brett will be managing to send you our live streaming of as much of the conference as we can give to you. So we'd like to thank you for attending, and I think I don't know whether we'll have another bridging webinar before the actual conference. We're all getting pretty busy now, but what I'd like to do is close our work together with the great invocation, and I know you all know this by memory, but just in case, we can, I mean, this happened to me, you know, right in the middle of a of a mantra that I've pronounced for 50 years. I don't know the next line, but here we go. The great invocation to everybody, with great appreciation for your attendance here, and the hope that you will join us in person for what I think is a real spiritual event. The hierarchy we know works through events. And when we come together and we create that magnetic aura, which can be impressed by the higher energies, and we distribute it throughout the world, we would love you to be a part of that. So, the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay, friends, let's work hard for the next 2 months building towards this conference and the celebration of the great and coming 7th ray. And meanwhile, we'll get this the link out to you as rapidly as possible so that you can tell your friends about it and they can enjoy the presentations even if they were not able to be here. So, many blessings, and we'll see you all before long. Thank you, and see you at the conference, one way or another. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
The group can say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.